Hey, thanks for joining and welcome to this Northspyre special event. And you might be wondering, why is this special? And to that, I'd say, because we say so. No, I'm sorry. But kidding aside, we are so thankful to have you here because today is one of the most exciting days in Northspyre history. If we haven't met before, I'm Neil Griffin, a vice president here at Northspyre. And to just do some quick housekeeping, we hope you're so excited about what you see today that you pay attention and maybe even have questions. And if you do, please share them into the Q&A chat, and we'll answer as many as we can during the Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. All right, let's ride. So to set the scene for today, I want to reflect back a little bit on our journey as a company and some of the earliest conversations I had with real estate developers as we were just getting off the ground. Unfortunately, for a lot of you and for me, really, a lot of those conversations happen on a cold call where I would reach out to introduce Northspyre, this awesome new software for real estate developers, to which you'd either be super annoyed and hang up on me or say something along the lines of real estate development software. So what do y'all do? Help build pro formas and organize deal information? And to which I would try to quickly redirect the conversation to what we did do and dazzle and excite you about the wonders and power of leveraging automation and data and how your team manages active development projects, budgets, changes, invoices, contracts, draws, forecasts, historical data. All very good and valuable stuff. And we wouldn't be here as a company today if there wasn't a real market need for a purpose-built platform that got development project teams, their accounting and finance counterparts, and their financial partners out of error-prone reactive spreadsheets and into more intelligent, proactive, and efficient way of managing and executing on their projects. But those early conversations told us something important about the market. When real estate developers imagine a real estate development software and the future of how they work, the first things that came to their mind were typically either their financial model or their pipeline management and deal tracking tools. And it makes sense. Deals are won and lost based on the speed in which teams can reach confident investment decisions. But money is made and lost based on the accuracy, the rigor, and the transparency of the underlying model and its assumptions. So both speed and rigor matter, yet with error-prone and cumbersome spreadsheets, the industry standard tool today, you can't have both. So looking forward towards the future, real estate teams that can create a comprehensive pro forma and investment memo complete with a full waterfall and sensitivity analysis in minutes, not days, evaluate 4 times as many deals while reaching faster, more confident investment decisions, and press their capital partners and lenders with a thorough professional financial model that puts the focus on the merit and the assumptions of the deal itself, not the viability and accuracy of a spreadsheet. These are the real estate development teams that will find the right opportunities, raise the right capital, and outperform the competition in the future. And so the seed for today was planted. In fact, after some of those early calls, I'd go back to William, go over to his desk. You'll meet William here in a second if you haven't before. And I'd say, man, there's a lot of people interested in us building a pro forma and underwriting solution. And he'd, look up at me, take off these, noise canceling headphones that he'd bought to focus. And he would say, "Go away, Neil." Now, in all seriousness, that's not what happened. But the reality is that building and executing on a product that would transform the way real estate development teams underwrite deals and manage their pipeline of opportunities, that would require a feat of software design and engineering, and one that we weren't ready to execute on at the time. But fast forward back to now, January 2026, the wait is over and the future is now. So without any more bad jokes or further ado, we are incredibly excited to announce and launch Northspyre Deal, the industry's first end-to-end pipeline management and financial modeling solution for real estate development and real estate finance teams. And to tell you a little bit more about it, I'm going to hand it off to our esteemed William Sankey, our co-founder and head of product. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. I'm William Sankey, co-founder and head of product here at Northspyre. Like many of you, I spent the first half of my career actually deep in the trenches of traditional real estate development. And I love the building part, right? I remember I had a fancy architecture degree. I thought, this is what I'm signing up for, to build our cities, right? But I actually was spending 50% of my time chasing invoices, compliance docs like CIOs, lien waivers, prepping data for change order negotiations. And I was staying up sometimes until 1 a.m. in the morning, trying to fix spreadsheet errors just so I could get the draw funded to pay our vendors, right? That frustration led, and I heard this from many of my peers in the industry, is really what led to building Northspyre. So we set to turn on the lights for the execution phase of development, to give teams automation and proactive insight so that they can make higher resolutions decisions that will lead to more predictable outcomes on projects. Now, this is something that's really hard to get from a static spreadsheet, as you know, unless you want to double your administrative burden. So let's fast forward 8 years, and Northspyre has really grown to be the leading platform for real estate development execution. But for a long time, I felt like we were only solving half the equation, because before a shovel hits the ground, before a budget is active, right, there's the deal. And frankly, solving the deal has never been more urgent than it is right now. We all know how development cycles go right now. Historically, the most profitable, and we can call it legacy defining projects, aren't put together when the market is just booming, right? Like, they're often put together in the down market, and maybe you execute on them in the up cycle. Like today, right now, the land basis is starting to get better. Competition is thinner, but the noise is louder. To find those needles in a haystack, the deals that actually pencil, you have to screen sometimes 10 times the volume of deals that you did just 3 years ago. And you cannot find the best opportunities in a down market if you're moving at the speed of manual data entry, right? The problem is the way we manage that volume is fundamentally broken. When I talk to acquisition teams and development leads, I see two separate workflows that refuse to talk to each other. You have workflow one is the deep dive, right? You have a smart analyst or even the principals at a firm there in Excel building complex, beautiful underwriting models where they have to really stress test feasibility. And then workflow two is the pipeline. You have a completely different spreadsheet or maybe a CRM or of some sort that's just tracking the list. Who do we talk to? What's the status? When are bids due? What's the next step? And these two worlds are disconnected. You update the model, but then the pipeline sheet is outdated. You kill the deal in the pipeline list, but the model sits in a folder and it's just gathering dust with all of your intellectual property about that deal trapped inside. We realized that developers were spending actually quite a bit of energy trying to bridge the gap between these two spreadsheets rather than analyzing the actual real estate deal. We realized that development isn't just a series of handoffs, right? It isn't underwriting versus project management. It's really one continuous thread of intelligence. That's how we look at it. And it starts with the inception of an idea, moves through the grid of the deal pursuit, as you all know, and then it flows directly into pre-development and construction. For years, people asked us to build a tool that connects this thread. And honestly, I sort of hesitated because coming from the industry, I know how personal the pro forma can be to you, right? Like your Excel model is your secret sauce. It's how you view the world. And I didn't want to replace that. In fact, I don't think a software should replace that. But after dozens of conversations with developers from Dallas, New York, the Bay Area, I realized we didn't really need to replace your secret sauce. What we needed, to make an analogy, was to give you a better kitchen to make it in. So we built Northspyre Deal. And I like to think we're very intentional about it. It's not here to replace your final underwriting model, and it's definitely not just a CRM bolted onto Excel. Lastly, I'll say what it's not expensive. Lastly, we wanted to make, and we'll talk about this later in the presentation, it's not here to cost you a lot of money. We understand during the pursuit phase, you have to keep expenses as low as possible. So later when we show you how to get started, we'll show you a very powerful free tier Northspyre Deal. But today I want to introduce to you the bridge that is Northspyre Deal, right? It brings you underwriting and your pipeline tracking into one single connected environment for the first time. So let's unpack that a little bit. What does that mean? It allows you to screen hundreds of deals you could do so you can identify maybe the 10 deals that you should do or you should not do, right? And once you find them, the data doesn't lie. It flows forward into planning, into execution, and into your portfolio history. This really consummates this long vision that we've had here at Northspyre since we were founded in 2017. We are the only end-to-end platform purpose-built for real estate owners and developers. So Without much further ado, I'll stop talking. I'm really proud to introduce to you Northspyre Deal. Guys, take it away.
Real estate acquisition teams need to move fast, but fragmented processes slow momentum and put deals at risk. Spreadsheets break, diligence slips, critical information gets buried in inboxes, and opportunities vanish before your team can act. Northspyre brings clarity and control to deal management in one connected platform. Northspyre Deal replaces fragmented workflows with fast, accurate financial modeling and real-time pipeline visibility to help your team identify the strongest investment opportunities with unmatched speed and precision. Model feasibility in seconds, compare scenarios, stress test assumptions, and understand performance under any condition. Every opportunity, every deadline, every interaction, all organized in one place. Real-time pipeline visibility means nothing slips, and investment decisions move faster. And when a deal is ready to move forward, Northspyre goes further. Instead of spending days rebuilding models into decks for internal investment committees or partners, Northspyre Deal uses AI to generate a polished draft investment deck automatically. The story, numbers, and assumptions are all pulled directly from your underwriting and diligence. What used to take days now takes minutes. As a deal advances, Northspyre carries everything forward. No handoffs lost, no rework, no duplicated data. Track actuals against your pro forma. One connected lifecycle from acquisition through construction. Stop evaluating deals the old way. Accelerate your financial analysis. Focus on high probability opportunities and centralize your team's underwriting, diligence, and relationships all in one platform. See how Northspyre Deal helps acquisition teams move faster and win more at northspyre.com/deal.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. My name is Ryan Ragu. I'm part of the team here at Northspyre, and I'm so excited to be speaking to you about our new product, Northspyre Deal. I've been with Northspyre for about 3 years now. I've gotten the opportunity to wear a lot of different hats, both here and in prior real estate roles. And so I've been a project manager with an affordable housing developer and led some ground up projects with them. I've been earlier in my career a senior analyst with several commercial brokers and real estate investment trusts and had the opportunity to underwrite about $500 million in investment assets in that time. And I have to tell you, I so wish we had Northspyre Deal when I was in those roles. It would have saved me a lot of time and it would have allowed those teams to be incredibly more efficient and productive. We created Northspyre Deal so that acquisitions teams could evaluate more deals faster and with confidence. And so I'm excited to show you today how it does exactly that. All right, so why don't we go ahead and jump into the platform and take a look around. All righty. So we land here in this deal dashboard, and right away, I have visibility into all the deals that we are pursuing. I can see what's going on with them, the different stages or phases that each deal is in. I can see sort of initial return metrics, and there's a lot of flexibility around this, and that's one of the things that you'll see throughout the system. So we can bring different fields into this table view, and if there are things that we maybe don't have on our list that are specific and pertinent to the way that you do business, you can actually create custom fields and then pull those in here. So a lot of flexibility around the tool. But we have visibility into everything that we're tracking, and as you'll see here in a few minutes, everything related to each one of these deals, all of my communication, my documents, my number crunching, everything is right behind each title here. And so it's all living in one place. We make it really easy to create a new deal in Northspyre Deal. We give you a few options on how you can do that. And so you can do just kind of a manual entry and get one started, 4 or 5 basic pieces of information and you're up and running. We can bulk upload. And so maybe today, if you have all of this information living in spreadsheets, we can work with you to kind of intake that in a bulk fashion. And I think the one that's maybe most exciting is this email deal option. And so you inevitably have relationships with a multitude of brokers and you're getting bombarded all the time with all these different offering memorandums, and it can be hard to keep track of. Well, here you can email those offering memorandums into the system, and Northspyre Deal is going to use AI to review that offering memorandum, pull out the pertinent details, and actually tee up a deal for you to work on and manage in the platform. Really, really cool feature about how this gets set up. You may have also noticed right above this create deal, we have this assess feasibility button. This is going to give us a quick sort of back of envelope calculator, so that I can understand, is this deal worth my time? Now, this is not a pro forma. We'll take a look at a fully fleshed out pro forma a little bit later on. But with this back of envelope calculator, I can simply enter, what can we build on the site? How many units? What square footage? What can we run it for? Expense load, debt assumptions, sale assumptions, very quick few pieces of information. And again, I'll show you this a little bit more fleshed out in a second. But what this is going to allow is within 30 seconds, I can understand, is this deal going to meet our numbers? Is this deal going to pencil? Is this deal worth my time? Or should we put this one away and focus our efforts elsewhere? Maybe today, the process is the team's having to run full models on everything that comes across your desk. And that ends up in a lot of time wasted on deals that won't actually pan out. We want to put you in a position to be really, really targeted about where you spend that time and energy. All right. So let's make sure it's worth it before we dig further. Okay. Let's take a look at what we have access to when we do have one of these deals created in the system. And so I'll click on this first deal here. Now, this is an example of one where we did have an offering memorandum. We into the system. And so these details here that I have in the overview, this is what the system actually reviewed and pulled out from that offering memorandum. And it's very easy for me to go in and edit things and add any color that I feel may be missing and is kind of pertinent to how I'm tracking this deal. I can enter target returns. And so as I start running numbers, which we'll see here in a second, I can quickly see, is this going to meet my targets? Is this meeting threshold? Or should we just put this one to the side and again, focus our efforts elsewhere? If we get downfield on this deal a little bit, we actually get under contract and we have sort of a due diligence timeline that we need to manage, we can enter that here and we can actually integrate with your email platform and your calendar. So it makes it really, really simple to keep track of this due diligence timeline, both here and across all of my active deals, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. We don't want any balls dropped. And so we make it really, really simple to kind of manage all of that in one place. Okay. Now, as mentioned, we can integrate with your email. So the system has full CRM capabilities. I can use this activity section to log internal notes, anything that comes up, as I'm underwriting the deal. I want to put some notes here about comps and different things as we're having internal meetings. I can put notes here. And I can also, as mentioned, integrate this with my email so that if I'm communicating with that broker or other third parties related to this deal, that email communication is going to feed right in here. And I see everything that's going on with this deal all in one place. I don't have to chase down, whoever's underwriting this deal, wait for Susan to get back into the office because she was the last person to speak with this person. And, none of that. It's all here and accessible. And I know exactly where things stand just in a click. Okay. And then we have, once again, that back of envelope calculation. And so this is an example where I've prepared a few of these. And so if I click on back of envelope, we have that same calculator we were looking at before. Now it's actually got some things filled in. And so you see just a few pieces of information here. I'm assuming, this is what I can build on the site. An efficiency ratio gets me this net square footage. I can do this many units at this price point and so on and so forth. Really, really simple setup. And it's going to track that against my target returns and show me, does this meet my requirements or not? Is this worth digging into further? Or, should we kind of pass on this one and move to the next one? Right. And it's really, really simple to iterate on this. And so as I'm going through this, I see that, yes, it meets my return on equity. It meets profit return. It's a little bit shy on that return on cost, but, maybe I've done some more research on comps and I found something that supports maybe, let's say 1850 a unit on average instead of the 1650. And so if I can get up to there, yes, that's worth pursuing further. So really, really easy to iterate on this. And again, all we're doing is we're saying, is this worth digging into further? All right. Now, in addition to all of that, you see some other tools up top. So I do have my pro formas, which we'll look at here in a second. All of my documents, again, if I get downfield on this, there's due diligence, there's a lot of documentation flowing back and forth. Maybe I want to have the OM, maybe I want to have a report on comps for the market or what have you. I can have all of my documents stored in one place, and we can run a number of reports both on this particular deal as well as the pipeline. And so we'll take a look at that a little bit later on. All right. Now, in terms of my pro forma, you can upload a pro forma if desired. And so we get this question a lot. We know that there's, there's always going to be those one-off scenarios, right? Where there's something really, really unique and specific, and you have to build a custom model for it. We understand that. And so you do have the ability to upload an Excel file if desired, and then we can kind of map that over. But what I want to show you is how simple it is to create a pro forma in the system, how robust that pro forma is, and how, in minutes instead of hours, we give you something that's really going to satisfy the majority of your underwriting needs. All right. And so the best place to start is from one of these back of envelope scenarios, and I can have several, it's worth calling out, but from any one of these, I can click Create Pro Forma. And again, I can start from scratch, or I can upload one. But easiest place is going to be to start from an existing sort of back of envelope calculation that I've put together. And so I can run that. And what you'll notice right out the gate is that just in a single click, we give you a lot of information to get you started. And so here we have our fully fleshed out pro forma. I have some general assumptions here on the first page. I assume a hold period, some different things. And that's one of the themes that you'll see as I click through this is, a lot of this has come in from that back of envelope that I put together, but there's also a lot of information that we pre-fill and make assumptions on for you to get you started. Now, it's really easy to dial all this in, to customize it to how you want to see this underwritten, and I'll show you a more fleshed out example here in a second. But just in that single click, and with the assumptions that we make around, stabilization, lease up pace, and all these different things, you can see that we have a fully fleshed out cash flow model. We have assumptions around, your development costs, when you exit, what are you going to sell the property for, all of that. We give you all of that here. We even have return metrics that can be broken down. So we have levered and unlevered equity multiples, IRR. If I have partners on the deal and there's a partnership split, I can model that out. And again, all of this I'm seeing literally just after one click to create the pro forma. Now, I'll show you one that's maybe a little bit more fleshed out. And so as you see here, I can have multiple pro formas. You see how easy it is to set these out. Within a few seconds, I can run a new one. I can spin one off. Here's an example where I did a few pro formas to evaluate things like different hold period, building different things on the site, different number of units, what I can do by right versus a variance maybe. And so really, really simple to spin all of that up here in the system. And then if I click into, we'll take a look at this one as an example. This is one where, we've built this out a little bit more. And so I clicked create pro forma. But now I want to kind of dial this in. And so, I've adjusted my hold period. I've entered my development costs here. In this example, I broke down my soft costs to a more detailed approach. On the operations side, I broke down the unit mix and some of the other income and expense variables. And so really, really easy to dial this in, but hopefully you see we give you a very powerful starting point so that right out the gate, you have a good impression of how this deal is going to perform. All right, so we can dial all this in here. We have all of our disposition assumptions. And then we take it a number of steps further. We have, again, our waterfalls. We can model promotes, different hurdles, all of those things that you may have in your Excel model that you use today. We have it here fully fleshed out for you. We also go into detailed sensitivity analysis. And so I was presenting this to someone recently who told me, as the person on the team that builds these models, I do come up with a sensitivity analysis, but it's very often the case. I'll present this, and someone on the team will say, "Hey, can you rerun that model showing this? Can you rerun that sensitivity table showing, cap rates versus soft costs, or cap rates versus development cost increases, or interest rates versus, whatever it is." And they do it, but it's a very big lift to kind of have to remodel all those different things. Here in Northspire, it's all off the shelf. We have all this ready to go for you. And if you see, a scenario that's not here and you want to pull it in, we have a number that you can pull in just with a click. All right. So really, really simple to underwrite the deal, really simple to understand how it's going to perform today. And also, sensitivity into the future if things shift. It's important to understand that as well. And so we put that right at your fingertips. All right. Now, maybe today you get to this point, you crunch all the numbers, you figure out, okay, it looks good, we want to pursue it. And then from here, you need to go to investment committee, you need to go to raising funds with capital partners. And it starts this whole additional exercise of putting together reports and decks and different things so that you can take all of this information that you spent a lot of time crunching numbers on and package it up and present it in the right way to the right partners. Well, in Northspire, that's just a few extra clicks, right? We've done all the groundwork already. Why have to go through this whole additional exercise when we can just package this up for you? And so we give you a number of reports that you can use to sort of present this information to the right parties. The first one is right here. We give you this executive summary. Now, this is going to give you a really, really clean two-pager. You see it here in the system. I'll show you what it looks like in kind of PDF format. It's going to give us a really crisp two-pager that we can present to our partners or investment committee internally to, pursue this deal, raise capital, whatever it is we want to do. And we have all of our return metrics, operating metrics, development, everything packaged up really nicely and neatly for us. Right? We're also working on, and I don't have this to show you today, but it is probably the next thing rolling off the assembly line here. You're going to be able to, again, within just a few clicks, put together a full investor memo where we give you a very robust deck that gets produced out of the platform. And it's going to have everything from the investment summary to deal highlights to market overview, everything you need to take this deal and potentially go out and raise funds, shop for capital partners, whatever you need to do to kind of bring this deal to fruition now that you've vetted it and you know it's good. We're going to put you in position to have a pitch deck where you can do that, again, just in a few clicks. All right. So we have you covered sort of on the investor front, investment committee internally, raising funds externally. Now let's say, all that is sort of upfront, right, to get this deal off the ground. Now, let's say you get into the deal and the numbers shift as they inevitably do, right? And all of those assumptions you made early on around what the costs are going to be to develop this asset, they begin to move. And it's important to be able to answer the question of, well, okay, now that my numbers have moved, what does that do to my returns? How are my actuals impacting my returns? And I've had a lot of people tell me that is a point where things sort of get lost in the shuffle. You spend all this time up front doing this really, really powerful pro forma modeling, and then you sort of hit go on the development, and that early work gets tucked in a drawer. And, you only revisit it maybe 16 months, 18 months down the road, whatever it is, when you're way into the development of that asset and you want to understand how the actuals are affecting returns. It can be a big lift to bring those new set of numbers back into that pro forma model, rerun it. One of the things that's really, really powerful about how we set up Northspyre Deal is that it feeds right into Northspire for Developers, or the core platform that many of you may know and love and use today. And so when you create a pro forma in the system, we have the ability to push that set of development numbers over to the core Northspire platform. And then as you get into development and those numbers start to move, you can pull your actuals back into the deal side of things and understand how that's impacted your actuals. Now, I was explaining that to someone recently, and they kind of stopped me and they said, "Hey, wait a second, you're telling me that I can track my return metrics at every single milestone of this process, right? Day one, when we do our underwriting, when we put a shovel in the ground, when we're 50% complete, when we're stabilized, when we sell the asset, you're telling me that I can track my return metrics at each of those intervals seamlessly. Almost asking in disbelief. And I said, well, yeah, that's absolutely what I'm telling you. And you can do so within just a few clicks. This is not spreadsheets. We're really, really changing the way that you have access to this information and these insights. All right. Now, let's zoom out for a second. That's everything kind of pertaining to this deal in and of itself. But let's say I need to understand this deal in a wider context, right? And so maybe I want to understand, how's my entire pipeline looking? And I'll just switch to a different view here where I've got some reports pulled up, some sample reports for us. But maybe, I'm looking at this deal in the context of the wider pipeline. We're sitting down Monday morning as a team, and we want to know, all of the potential ground up deals that we're pursuing. What are they? What's that list? In what stage is each one of those, right? And if that's living in spreadsheets and email and share files and people's heads and all these different things, it can be difficult to aggregate that information. Maybe you have a bunch of spreadsheets floating around, but then for your Monday meeting, you have a Word document that you need to put together as well. And it makes it really cumbersome. Here, we can, within a few clicks, kind of aggregate all that information and be able to talk through it. Maybe I want to understand this deal in comparison to others. And so this report is an example where we are comparing deals side by side. Here, we're looking at some deals that we've recently completed in a particular geographic region. And we're saying, okay, where are our winners? Where are our losers? What did we really knock out of the park? What kind of deal does it make sense to continue to invest into as we look at future deals versus maybe, some of these other ones that we did within that particular region don't make sense to redo that type of thing in the future. And so we can easily see all of these deals stacked side by side. Maybe all of these deals are early on, maybe they're not completed, and we're vetting a number of deals and we're understanding at an investment committee meeting, out of these 5 deals, which 2 do we want to move forward on this year, this quarter, whatever it is. But really easy to see those stacked side by side and be able to make that decision. And then, one of the more powerful ones that I really like, maybe I need to understand this deal in the context of a larger, let's say, mixed use development, right? So maybe this is one asset out of several that comprise this big campus sort of multi-phase development that I'm working on. And I need to understand asset performance both at the individual asset level and then across the entire mixed use development. Well, I can bring multiple deals into a combined view and have a very, very clear and concise report as to my combined returns. So here I have these 3 deals. I'm saying, okay, these are all part of this particular mixed use development. And so in the aggregate, what's my levered IRR? In the aggregate, what's my equity multiple? What's my partner IRR and limited partner IRR? I can see all of that rolled up together. I see a full timeline of development, operation, stabilization, sale across all the assets. I see development costs, property returns, all of that, all aggregated across these individual deals. Now, another really great use of this is, maybe it's not a mixed use development. Maybe these are different assets, completely different assets, but they all roll up under a particular investment fund. And so I need to understand the fund level returns, or maybe it's all capitalized by a particular debt source. And I need to understand, the return metrics for that individual source. And so I can very, very easily do that here in the system. Okay. Now, if you can believe it, this is all just a glimpse of what the system can do. As much as I've shown us here, I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but hopefully this gives you a good overview of the potential that Northspyre Deal offers. It really is this comprehensive deal management suite, bringing all of your deal management, all of your activity, your documents, your communication, your number crunching and underwriting, all into a central source of truth, all into one platform. It is powerful out of the box, so you can use it and get value on day one, but it's also very flexible and customizable and can be tailored to exactly how you need to see things, track things, underwrite things. And it really is for our customers who our core Northspyre users, it's really going to give you this powerful end-to-end solution from deal pursuit all the way through development and stabilization and understanding your return metrics across that entire life cycle. And ultimately, this is going to put you in a position to evaluate more deals faster and with confidence. And then the question becomes, if that's true, in that hypothetical scenario, if that becomes true, what would that change for your pipeline and for your business strategy this year? But we want to put you in that position. And so if you've liked what you've seen here and you want to learn more, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk more about how Northspyre Deal can transform your business. Thank you so much for your time.
Ryan, thanks so much for that demo. That was pretty nice, actually. But I actually have a surprise for you. One thing you might not know, I know you were on vacation for the past week and a half. Happy belated birthday also. One thing, we were working really hard while you were gone, and we actually built something that you probably don't know about. And it's something that we heard from a lot of customers. So when we were doing an early quiet beta with Northspyre Deal, I got a call with a lot of the customers that used the product to ask them how it went. And they say, man, this is great. Like, we have this tool that can sync into our email, help with manage deal pipeline seamlessly, help with feasibility analysis, back of envelope calculations, do a full-on pro forma with waterfall distributions and promotes and all of that. Great reporting. This is awesome. But you know what I wish it did? They say, I wish that Northspyre Deal could draft me the first version of our investor memo that we're going to send out, our investor deck. And so, we thought, we always want to listen, and you can expect that from us. Erica's going to share a little bit more later, one of our product leads, about how we like to listen to customers. But here's an example, because we built something new. I'm going to show you something. It's going to be available at launch today in a beta aspect of this feature, but we actually built the tool to help you automate with AI, building your investor deck, leveraging a lot of the data that you have from these performance you've generated with a lot of automation in Northspyre Deal. Let's take a look. So let's take a quick peek here at generating an investment memo directly from Performa data that you have in Northspyre. So if you recall, along the top navigation when you're in Northspyre, you'll have things like deal management, your Performas, reports, but you also have this investment memo. And what this is, if you went to the investment memo, it'll pull up our investment memo deck builder. Now, what you can do with this is sort of magical, and it's pretty easy to use, actually. It's just like what it sounds like. Northspyre is going to give you a list of your performance that you've put together and you've worked on. So here, you might have a list of whatever performas or versions of performance that you've run through Northspyre. And once you select your performance, it's going to pull up data to generate and fill out all the key information you might need in a draft investment memo. So I already got this one started a little bit with this deal called Ponce Highland Gardens in Atlanta here. And Northspyre went through and pulled information from the deal, pulled information from the pro forma, and it also leveraged some AI to automatically populate some assumptions. So, I already had a name for this deal, Ponce Highland Gardens, but AI looked at the location, it looked at what I was building, and it suggested a tagline for this development project: urban multifamily development near Atlanta's East Side Beltline corridor, right? And it's pretty cool, right? Like, so it's doing this throughout. It's taking information from the deal. It also allows you to upload information like your logo, if you have that, or things like a rendering. Coming very soon, we're going to have AI give you the option of letting AI create a rendering for you, right? But a lot of key information from this opportunity description is pulling up relevant information about this location, this opportunity, and drafting it up, giving you like a head start. You notice I can edit everything. So I can write custom text in here, or I can let AI do some of the legwork to get us started, right? It's even pulling up potential things to highlight about the deal, right? And it's looking at, let me just zoom in here a little bit. It's looking at the returns on the deal, what makes it great. And it's looking at the timeline of the deal thing. It'll look through the deal and it'll leverage AI to understand like what makes most sense to highlight in this deal. Now, these are some of the high level components for summarizing the deal, but you also have the deeper dive deal overview aspect where, again, things like, uploading a site plan is going to be available if you want to add that, and pulling in information from the deal like, the size and the square footage and the unit mix and the location, and even again, like leveraging AI to pull in key proximity drivers in this location, right? It's looked at the location, it's looked around, it's giving me specific readouts on key information. Again, I can come in and add our own specific location, like drivers of what's happening around this development site, right? It's pulling in timeline information. Again, I can edit and change anything I want to. All of this here, if I want to write information about our team and how we execute, the volume of assets we've managed, you could do all of that here. I'm going to leave that blank for now, right? And if there are key vendors you want to spell out, whether it's an architecture firm or legal, again, I'm going to leave this blank for now, but you could put that in here so you can highlight that you're working with best-in-class design consultants or contractors that know this market well, and people can trust your ability to execute, because not only do they trust you, but they trust that you're working with the top-notch vendors in your local market. And then Northspyre is also going to pull in key financial data from that performance. So I can see, like, if I had key sources and uses and key metrics, how much am I spending on acquisition costs per unit built, or whatever metric we decide to put in there, right? Like, all of that is here. And, what type of cash flows am I getting, trended and untrended? What am I getting on the disposition? All of that information is here. What are the returns? What's the IRR? All of that's being pulled in automatically, so you don't have to go do a lot of legwork. So actually, it took me longer to talk about this than it takes Northspyre to generate one of these, but I had to talk about it to show you what it is. And once all of this is done, if you notice at the bottom, you see this Generate Deck button. And right when you press Generate Deck, you're going to get two options. Do you want this as a PDF or a PowerPoint? So you download this as a PowerPoint. You can take it from there. You can edit and change it up. If you think, this is a good draft that I want to run with and just circulate out there, test the market momentum, you can package this up as a PDF and ship it out, right? It's very easy. So once you press this button, Northspyre is going to go in the background, do a little bit of work trying to pull this deck together, trying to get it formatted nicely. And it's going to show up here as view this deck in documents, right? And this is the document library within Northspyre. This is where all the documents associated with your deal lives, whether it is, your environmental site assessment or your survey, whatever documents you want to have here. And so I can see that document was auto-generated. It's saved here, this investor deck. I can see it here, very easy. I could share from here to someone else pretty easily, but I'm just going to show you what this looks like. I'm going to pop it out into a larger screen. And you can see this is a draft investor deck. It's beautiful. It's clean. It has our logo. It has compelling information. You guys saw I didn't write anything here. AI actually filled in a lot of the gaps on this. Maybe if this was a real deal, I might edit this and take some liberties, but you can see how fast it gets you to something that's relatively polished, a really good starting point. So you aren't spending an entire day or 3 days trying to get a draft investor deck out. In a matter of minutes, you have a draft investor deck out, all the key information set up so that you can really do, put the deal to focus on putting the deal together and not focus again on paperwork, administrative work, not all the meta work about a deal, but actually the deal. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Thanks, Ryan, for the demo, and sorry to surprise you with this part you might not have known about, but I want to share this with all of you guys. So I look forward to you guys taking a peek at Northspyre Deal and using the investment memo deck builder. Thank you.
Up to this point, you've seen how Northspyre Deal helps teams evaluate opportunities faster. Underwriting, sensitivity analysis, investment memos, and much more, all in one place. What I want to show you next is why Deal isn't just another point solution and how it fits into the broader real estate lifecycle that Northspyre facilitates. In real life, as we know, a deal doesn't just stop once it's underwritten, and that's where a lot of tools break down. A typical development lifecycle looks something like this. It starts with a deal, you're making early assumptions, underwriting, putting together investor materials. From there, it moves to pre-development, so you're looking at feasibility work, planning, early vendor procurement, and then into construction, where assumptions meet reality and real costs start to hit. After stabilization, the asset becomes operational, but the work doesn't stop. CapEx projects continue to surface throughout the property's life cycle. And eventually, ideally, You're looking at everything together through portfolio level insight. The challenge is that most teams manage each of these stages in completely different systems. What makes Northspyre different is that we don't treat these as separate worlds. As Ryan previously touched on, what you're seeing here is a deal pro forma, but this isn't static. As a project moves forward and you're ready to start procuring vendors and spending money, you can create a project from your deal and pro forma. All of your deal data and development assumptions will map seamlessly over to this new project. This is where you can start to dive deeper into budgeting and start to use our bid management feature to procure vendors. Then, when you want to pulse check on how real spend is impacting your original return forecast, you can easily swap out original development forecasts with your real-time project data, seeing the impact to return in seconds. So we can see here, a project has been created from this pro forma. And instead of seeing the Create Project from Deal button, I'm instead going to see a Use Project Actuals toggle. What this will do is swap out my original forecasted uses and sources with the actual data from my project that I've been using as I've been incurring costs, spending money, forecasting. And all of that will flow seamlessly through my pro forma to update returns accordingly. This is the power of an end-to-end platform. Deal isn't the end of the workflow, it's the beginning, and this is just a snapshot of how Deal connects into the broader Northspyre ecosystem. With that, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Eric.
Hi, my name is Eric Wang, and I'm the product manager leading Northspyre Deal. A little bit about me, I used to be a developer in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I used to work at institutions like PGIM and GAW Capital, creating pro formas for billion-dollar deals and managing deals all over the place. So I understand the pain points that you're having to work through when managing your pro formas. I want to talk about the roadmap as we see it today, but remember, we're going to listen to your feedback on how we'll guide it going forward. Today, we'll launch pro formas with apartments, retail, industrial, and data centers. In the future, we'll be able to support hospitality, self-storage, student housing, and senior living. And the goal is for one platform for all your asset types. We'll also support for sale models. These are not income-producing properties, but rather condos and land development that are meant for immediate exit. We're also researching acquisition models. And so these are like stabilized assets alongside your development pipeline. We'll work on reporting and analytics improvements for better pipeline data views and sharing with team members. We'll also more tightly integrate development with Deal so that your actuals can flow back into your models. We'll support better enterprise permissioning to control who sees what data. And we'll create an API so that you can integrate with other business intelligence systems. And lastly, we'll have an Excel pro forma integration so you can import models directly into Deal. So that's the roadmap as we see it today. We want to hear from you about what's working and what we can improve for your business. So I'm excited to partner with you and for you. And now I'll hand it back to Haley so that she can tell you how to get started with Deal.
One of the most important decisions we made with Deal was how to bring it to market. We knew from the beginning that this needed to be accessible, not just for large teams, but for anyone evaluating deals. So we're excited to announce that you can try it for free. Entirely free, and when you're ready to scale, we have an expanded offering, Deal Pro, that supports a higher deal volume. I'm going to drop the sign up link in the chat now. It'll look like this. All you need to do is type in your email, follow the prompts, and get started. We're incredibly excited to get this into your hands and even more excited to learn from how you use it. With that, I'll hand it off to William for Q&A.